What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie. Going to do a quick deep dive into the three. That's right, three. You probably forgot they made a third, because I always do. Studio albums by Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. Three albums. One way back when, in like the beautiful glory days of the 70s, 1970. One, an album that's generally regarded as like a masterpiece. An almost uncanny melding of four distinct voices that somehow made it work over the course of two sides of music. A 1988 comeback album, I guess you want to call it, even though a bunch of stuff happened between those two albums, that is generally regarded as a disaster. A recent YouTuber called it one of the most 10 disappointing albums of all time. Disappointing is a weird word, so I guess that could qualify. I think it's definitely not overrated, but I think it's overrated as a disaster. There are some good songs on it. And then a third album, which I always forget they made. Yeah, a third album. They did a third album. Everything unremarkable. I mean, look at the album cover when you see it. It's just unremarkable. But they did a third album. When was that? Like 97? So yeah, three albums, 99, right when we're all freaking out about Y2K. So I'm going to review them, rank them, not play music from them, and that's it. Then we'll be done with Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young for now. All right, let's get on to number three, which is this one. American Dream. Already, 1988, already hate the album title. It's at the end of the Reagan era. Neil went through a weird patriotic phase early in the 80s. Now we're coming back to here. Not a big fan of the album title. This album is just kind of like the album that's going to follow this on the list, kind of just a hot mess. And I think what's like a clear indication of where this album goes wrong is in the first track, American Dream, the last track, Night Song, and then a song somewhere towards the back half, buried in the middle, a song called Compass, a Crosby track. And I've taught, instructed, tutored, mentored a lot of performance artists, slam poets over the decades. And I always tell them, if you're going to get up in front of a stage, you're going to get in front of people, primacy and immediacy. The way you hit them out of the gates, the way you hit them as you're leaving the stage, those are the things that are going to stick with them the most. And slam poetry, you get scores. So you want to hit them hard opening. You want to hit them as you're leaving. And that middle stuff you can play around with, but primacy, immediacy. For this album, primacy, the opening track, American Dream. Immediacy, the last song, Night Song. Every horrible decision made by a producer during the 80s is almost somewhere represented in these two tracks. Just sounds horrible. American Dream, there's this fake pan flute synthesizer, weirdness, doing this weird little melody that I don't care for. A really, really frustrating song because it's a Neil song. There's potential in the lyrics. You take these lyrics and give them to any other Neil band, get rid of the 80s production, drop that weird flute sound. Maybe it's an okay song. Maybe there's potential. The last song, mid-tempo synth rock with every other horrible decision ever made. Horrible way to end the album. No, I'm just immediately like, my first and last experiences with this album are horrible. But then somewhere in the middle, after you've suffered through 2/3 of this album, David Crosby drops a song called Compass, which is acoustic. It's haunting. The vocals are amazing. You get this 1.5 minute just mood setter before the vocals drop. It's a Crosby song. Crosby can deliver. Absolutely beautiful. This song, and kind of the other song that's on here with Crosby, a song called Nighttime for the Generals, which just doesn't work. It's this 80s synth rock sound. It's plodding. It's just kind of drags, doesn't hit. But Compass, just the frustration of David Crosby in one song. Absolute genius. The other two albums, arguably the best tracks on both those albums are David Crosby songs. And yet, just so many personal troubles, health problems, couldn't get it together to put together that one album that should be potentially could be one of the greatest albums of all time. But he gives us the best song on this album, Compass. But after the opening track, I'm going to argue there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tracks in a row that are not as bad as people think they are or claim they are. Got It Made. If you like Christopher Cross yacht rock, this is a great musically comforting Christopher Cross yacht rock song. That's all it is. Just really good yacht rock. It's a Stills and Young song. Some 80s choices that kind of ruin it, but it's yacht rock. Name of Love, a Young song. Would fit on almost any Neil Young album. It's just a slightly country rock, Neil folky song. Works perfectly. Yes. They played it, and Crazy Horse played it. Crazy Horse played it prior to the release of this album in 87. They brought it back again like the mid 2010s. What, 2014? That was, 2014, 15. Crazy Horses played this song. Name of Love. It's a good Neil song. Don't Say Goodbye, a Nash song. Not a bad melody. It's your Neil Graham Nash piano ballad with some synth strings going on there. Innocent, gentle. It's Nash comfort food. Then you get This Old House, another Neil Young song. A little cheesy, a little man from the bank's going to take this house away type post-80s fight the man farmer type thing that everybody was doing. Sort of your typical Neil song, pointless little solo. Kind of has a Band of Horses vibe with all the chorals, all the like choral singing going on. Not a bad song, not a great song, but that little run of 4 songs, you're like, okay, there's something here. But then we get Crosby's Nighttime for the Generals, a Nash song called Shadowland, which even has rain effects in there, some bad synth. The melody in this sounds exactly like, but not exactly like, Nick Kershaw's Wouldn't It Be Good If We Could, ba-na-na-na-na. Really good underground 80s hit, maybe not underground, but Wouldn't It Be Good? Look it up. I had to go listen to it. Sounds just like that, but Nick Kershaw's song is better. Driving Thunder is like a ZZ Top blues rock stuff that just, some tasty slide work, points for effort, but it just does not fit on this album. But then we get a Nash decent soft rock song called Clear Blue Skies. We get a Stills kind of bad synth pop song with some bad horns from Stills. A song called That Girls that does not exist if Phil Collins does not drop Susu Studio on us. This is Stephen Stills trying to get his own Susu Studio. Then we get the maddeningly genius Compass. Then we get Soldiers, a Graham Nash song that has some bad synth sounds in it, but it kind of wins you over. It's one of those Nash sort of storytelling songs. It's no more chant. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of entertaining. It's also kind of cringy, but ultimately it has this weird Asia Prague vibe at one point. It's a weird song, but I'm maybe not even good, but it's kind of car wreck fascinating. Feel Your Love, a nice young acoustic, warm, intimate type song, and then we close with the Horrible Night song. There are some moments on this album worth listening to. Unfortunately, there's moments you wish you would never listen to. So it's frustrating. You get 7 Neil songs, 4 Still songs, 4 Nash songs, 2 Crosby songs. The best song on here is Crosby. There's a couple playlist-worthy songs. And if this was recorded in the 70s, it might be a much better album. The 80s production ruins it. But yeah, not the most disappointing album of all time for me, or even in the top 10. But considering this came out 18 years after the first, and that was in 18 years that had a war, a Vietnam War, a recession here in the States. Neil Young made 37 albums. We had Reagan. We had the Iran hostage crisis. A lot happened in those 18 years. So, yeah, that's my number 3, American Dream. My number 2 is 1999's Looking Forward, their third album, the one I always forget exists. Another one that's kind of like a car wreck. There's stuff in here that doesn't work, including the opening track, which again, why are you putting these horrible songs as your opening tracks? American Dream. I don't like that song. The opening, Faith in Me, a sort of Stephen Stills flirting with an island groove. And is that an accent he's trying to do at one point? It's a big no. It's a big no on this opening track. But then the next song, Looking Forward, Nice, soft Neil Young country rock. Could be on any Neil album. Kind of harmless, kind of gentle, some nice harmonies. I mean, you open up with this, I'm a lot more inclined to like stick around for the rest of the album. Faith in Me makes it hard. Then we get Stand and Be Counted, a Crosby song. The opening riff sounds like Ronnie and Neil, the Drive-By Trucker song. Some southern rock guitar riffage in here. The problem with this song, it's a pretty fascinating song. I think it's pretty interesting. Once again, plays into the whole like Crosby is such a frustrating artist type thing, is the production kind of ruins it. The mix. It's almost like there's some really good guitar in here. The drum is mixed horribly. But the guitar seems to be buried once we get that opening riff, almost as if it's like Stills and Neil are playing the guitar. I'm not even sure Neil's on this. Probably is. And then Crosby's like, well, I'm just going to turn them down and turn my voice up. I don't know. It's a weird little song. It's got this nice little drop into this acoustic part that's pretty cool. Nice guitar solo that's in here. The drums just sound horrible. It sounds like they recorded everything but the drums, and then they played the recording of everything but the drums, and then recorded, and the version we're getting is the initial recording of the drums. So they're really front and loud and center, and everything else is just a little bit pushed to the back. Don't like the mix. Heartland, I'm torn on Graham Nash. He has early songs, which I'm like, man, that is so innocent. There's not a single rough edge on this song. It is smooth, but it is like kind of pop perfection. It is like literally the Candyman giving you just sweets. And I'm not always about that. Heartland is the most boring Graham Nash song I've ever heard. I have only heard the Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Nash Young ones. Haven't heard his solo stuff. I've heard Holly's stuff. But it's just bland, soft rock. Bad production. I don't know what happened to Nash here. I think it's by far the least interesting thing Nash has ever done. Then we get a bunch of good songs. Seen Enough by Stills. Bluesy Slide. Feels like it fit anywhere on a Stephen Stills album. Kind of got this groovy feel. We need more of this. This is kind of them loosening up and jamming. Slowpoke, a Young song. Sounds as close to Heart of Gold as you're going to get without it actually being Heart of Gold. But hey, that's a good sound. Country folk rock vibe. Dream for Him. Awesome Crosby song. This sort of 70s soft rock, slightly jazzy vibe, kind of muted, free, loose, almost has flirts with this sort of like Van Morrison, just let everybody play and we'll groove out type vibe. An amazing song. Once again, another win in the tally column for Crosby on these albums. Maybe the best song on here. No Tears Left, a heavy blues from Stills that just does not fit on this album. Just kind of comes out of nowhere. It's like we're watching Stand By Me and then 15 minutes of Maximum Overdrive just all of a sudden appear. Doesn't work. Out of Control, a young country ballad that's a little too theatrical, a little too over the top. Seems like it could have fit on like Harvest, right? Like it's like an old, like Man Needs a Maid type, just too much going on. Not a big fan. Kind of fascinating, kind of interesting in the Neil sense, but on this album, it's just another weird thing. Someday Soon, harmless Nash pop folk. Queen of Them All, a Young, really weird pop song from Young, almost like a straightforward pop song. Sounds like something Band of Horses could cover, again with the Band of Horses reference. It kind of sounds like it shouldn't work, but it ultimately does in a weird way. This does seem almost like Neil had a bunch of songs he didn't know what to do with and was like, I'm going to drop them on that Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young album. They'll fit. And then we close with Sonny Bell, which nobody wrote. Somebody else wrote it, not one of them. Nash and Young do the vocal. Kind of an acoustic, soft song with Neil Young's vocals being this high, weird register that's just like, what is he trying a new singing style here too? I don't know. This album is a hot mess, but it's kind of fascinating. Doesn't have anything as good as that Crosby song Compass from the first one, but I think it's a little more consistent. The production is a little bit better. It's still not maybe, I don't even know what it is. But yeah, that would be my second. Looking forward. The one I always forget came out. Maybe better with a different mix. But that means number one, and was there ever any doubt? Deja Vu. I think I already have an entire video devoted to this album, which I dropped way back when I was doing 1970, literally 1970 era Neil Young. It's a perfect album. It kind of is almost a perfect album. Carry On. Great opening. Still song. That shift into sort of a psych rock jam early on after these sort of tight, folky harmonies and guitars that kind of shift and kind of slide their way in. Then we get like this nice psych folk rock middle, some great harmonies and vocals. Teach Your Children, Nash, country rock, country folk rock with Garcia dropping some pedal steel, a little Jerry action there. Very typical Nash sweetness. One of those songs I hated in college. As I'm getting older, I'm just like, you know what? Nash is good at this stuff. Almost Cut My Hair. Genius, David Crosby. Just genius. A hippie anthem, and deservingly so. Great guitar work from Stills and Young. Letting My Freak Flag Fly. Fantastic song. Helpless, classic Neil Young. Country soft rock. Woodstock, one of the best covers of all time. If you've never heard Joni Mitchell's Woodstock, it's her and a Wurlitzer, right? I think that's what she's playing, and that's it. It's just the most bare. It's like I imagine Joni playing this song was imagining her on stage playing this when the sun rose, like a la Jimi Hendrix. It's got that just everybody's waking up type, maybe not even before. Like she's playing this before the sunrise when people are still sleeping. It's the most chillest thing. And they turn it into just a fantastic rock song. One of the greatest covers ever. Deja Vu, Crosby, once again. Super awesome, trippy folk psych song, tense, upbeat, drops into this slower groove. David just, probably the best two songs on here are Crosby songs. Almost Cut My Hair, Deja Vu. It's got this weird, eerie, spookiness, metaphysical, like what the heck's going on type vibe. We've all been here before. We've all been here before. Fantastic song. Amazing. Flirts with Prague a little bit at the end. Our House, the lightest of pop songs by Nash. The older I get, the more I like it. 4 and 20, a nice Stephen Stills kind of soft fingerpick folky acoustic thing, sort of about one person's struggles through life. Young's kind of all over the map country girl. You get the little bit of Whiskey Boot Hill into Down, Down, Down into Country Girl. The end of Country Girl is nice and uplifting. The only complaint about this is I think it is Neil Young being Neil Young and maybe not even being a team player, because I don't think this fits in. It almost feels like it comes from a different album, like it would have fit on Harvest, would have fit on one of those little slightly more let's do something weird Neil albums. It kind of doesn't fit on here, but it's still a fascinating Neil listen. And then Everybody I Love You, Stills Young, 60s psych pop, some nice big rock energy to end with. Maybe the most legitimate weakest track on here, Country Girl, not necessarily being weak, but also just not quite fitting with the rest of the vibe. But yeah, my number one, easily Deja Vu. That's what they all look like in written form, if you're Dory and you have a short-term memory. And that's what they look like. I got nothing more to say. That's it. Let me know your thoughts on this. You know what? There's that list. That's what they look like all together. The two albums they put back to back out in 69 and 70 being easily the top two of here. But yeah, that's what every Crosby, Stills, and Nash with or without Young album looks like ranked. That's all I got. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on these albums, on Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young, things I messed up on, the frustrating career of David Crosby, who wrote just some absolutely genius songs. And whether or not Neil Young actually respected this band, or whether it was just like, hey, let's just release stuff. I'm just going to bring them stuff and see what happens. But yeah, all right. That's all I got. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, comment. Peace. Talk to you later.